You sit surrounded by familiar papers, believing tonight will pass quietly. Then the doorbell rings, and standing there isn't a random visitor, it's your sister, with a cold smile and a heavy envelope in her hand. When you unfold the letter, the numbers inside make your heart stop. Rent tripled overnight, a blow that threatens to strip you and your neighbors of the place you've called home for decades. In that moment, a painful truth settles in. Your own family has chosen to cut you out of your grandmother's legacy. If this drama story were yours to live, would you stay silent or rise to fight back? A gentle like and subscribe will keep you close for the next twist. You thought life had finally reached a steady rhythm. Managing Riverside Apartments wasn't glamorous, but it gave you purpose. Every morning, you walked through the hallways, checking on repairs, greeting neighbors who had become more like family than tenants. Mrs. Simmons always waved from her window, offering tea whenever she sensed you needed comfort. Mr. Peterson, who had lived there 40 years, liked to tell you stories about how the building creaked differently depending on the season. These weren't just walls and floors. They were memories, laughter, and bonds stitched together over decades. You carried the responsibility proudly, because this wasn't just a job, it was your grandmother Eleanor's legacy. She had trusted you with the building, training you in her quiet, deliberate way. Every Sunday, she invited you into her study, spreading out bills, repair invoices, and tax documents across her oak desk. While others in your family were celebrating promotions or planning vacations, you were sitting beside her, learning how to balance numbers with compassion. Property is nothing without people, close quote, she would say, tapping her pen against the margin. Never forget that, child. Those words echoed in your heart every time you fixed a leaky faucet or stayed up late negotiating with contractors to stretch the repair budget. And though your family dismissed your work as menial, you held on to the truth. You weren't just preserving a building. You were protecting a community. But deep down, you always sensed the imbalance. Growing up, your sister Valerie was the golden child. On Christmas morning, she unwrapped a pearl necklace while you received a clearance sweater. At birthdays, she was praised for her ambition, while your achievements barely drew a nod. Your sister knows what she wants, close quote, your parents would say, beaming with pride at her sharp determination. Meanwhile, you were told that being too sentimental would only hold you back. Do you remember moments like that in your own life? Have you ever felt your efforts weighed less than someone else's glitter? Even then, you didn't resent her, not entirely. Valerie's world was fast cars, polished offices, and gleaming trophies. Yours was warm kitchens, shared meals, and fixing things no one else noticed. You thought maybe those differences could coexist. Maybe one day your family would see the value in both paths. That hope shattered the night she stood at your door with that envelope. Her smile was polished, professional, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. The camel-colored coat she wore probably cost more than 3 months of your rent. She didn't wait for an invitation, just brushed past you into the apartment, her heels clicking sharply on the wood floor. She glanced at the pile of maintenance requests on your coffee table, the crocheted blanket from Grandma draped across your couch, and laughed softly. You always were the dedicated one, close quote, she said. But her voice carried no admiration, only accusation. Then came the envelope. Heavy paper. Official lettering. Inside, a rent increase that made your hands shake. From $2,350 to $7,000. Impossible. Unthinkable. Business is business, close quote, she said, adjusting the gold Cartier watch gleaming on her wrist. The family voted last weekend. We're repositioning assets for maximum return. And just like that, the ground beneath you cracked open. Your pulse quickened. Your throat turned dry. In your mind, you saw the dining table from last Sunday's family gathering, 14 relatives talking, laughing, clinking glasses. When you tried to bring up Riverside Apartments, they looked away. Your mother changed the subject. Your cousins whispered. They had already decided. They had already chosen. Chosen her. Not you. Have you ever sacrificed everything for family, only to realize they never valued it? You wanted to scream. To beg. To remind her of Christmas mornings when Grandma pulled you aside and whispered, "She seeks power. You seek connection. Remember which one builds a legacy." But you didn't. Instead, you steadied your voice, though your hands trembled. "I'll need to review this with my attorney." She laughed. A sharp cutting sound. What attorney would waste time on this? The building's mine. The transfer papers were signed last month. Her words sliced deeper than the paper itself. Because this wasn't just about numbers. This was about your home. About Mrs. Simmons baking cookies for neighbors at Christmas. About Mr. Peterson knowing every floorboard by name. About Grandma Eleanor's whispered lessons echoing in your ears. "Mom and Dad know about this?" Close quote, you asked, though you already knew the answer. "Of course," close quote, Valerie said, mimicking father's authoritative tone. "Your sister manages all the assets. She knows what she's doing." The smile on her lips wasn't about money. It was about victory. About erasing you from Eleanor's legacy. And just when you felt your strength falter, your phone buzzed. A message from Mrs. Simmons. "Come down for tea, dear. You look upset." I saw Valerie arrive. Valerie saw the text, smirked, and snapped her portfolio shut. "The tenants aren't your concern anymore. I'll handle communications going forward." She walked out, heels echoing like a countdown clock. Moments later, Mrs. Simmons appeared at your door. Silver hair pinned neatly, cardigan buttoned just so, carrying her favorite teapot. She didn't wait to be invited. She simply walked in, set the tray down, and poured chamomile into your trembling hands. "I knew your grandmother for 50 years, close quote, she said, her eyes steady. "What would Eleanor say about this?" Close quote, and suddenly, the battle lines were drawn. From that night on, the documents in Grandma's old boxes became your lifeline. Each folder told a story. Property deeds, bank statements, emails Valerie has sent to developers. One, dated just weeks after Eleanor's funeral, spoke of turning Riverside into luxury condos for a 300% return. Another showed how she convinced your parents to sell the lake house Eleanor had promised you. Page after page revealed a quiet, calculated dismantling of everything your grandmother held dear. Your chest ached as you sifted through the papers. Not just for yourself, but for every tenant whose life would be uprooted. For every memory that would be erased. Mrs. Simmons stood by your side, her presence like an anchor. "Eleanor prepared you for this," close quote, she reminded you. "Those afternoons you spent learning numbers and taxes. She wasn't just teaching you. She was arming you. For the first time in years, you understood. Your grandmother had seen this storm coming. And she had chosen you, not Valerie, to weather it. But still the weight was unbearable. Your parents' voices haunted you. Valerie carries this family financially. We owe her. Every family dinner replayed in your mind, every time your accomplishments were dismissed, every moment you were silenced while Valerie was celebrated. You whispered into the quiet. "Have I been blind all along?" Close quote, no, close quote, Mrs. Simmons answered gently. "Just trusting." Trusting had left you vulnerable. But now, armed with the truth, you felt something stir inside you. Not revenge. Not yet. But resolve. Because this wasn't just a building. It was home. It was community. It was dignity. And if Valerie wanted to erase you from the story, you were about to write a chapter she could never ignore. So you gathered the documents, organized them into piles, and prepared for what would come next. Tell me, if you were standing in that same living room, holding proof of betrayal in your hands, what would you do? Would you walk away? Or would you fight? You wake the next morning with Eleanor's words echoing in your head. Connection will outlast power. But the sunlight streaming through your window feels different now, harsher, colder, because you know the battle has begun. On your table sit 3 neat stacks of papers you organized through the night. Property deeds, bank statements, and emails. Each document is a puzzle piece forming an ugly picture of Valerie's ambition painted across the canvas of your grandmother's legacy. Your phone buzzes again. Another message from your parents. Short. Direct. Your sister has kept this family afloat. Do not create conflict. You stare at the words until they blur. Conflict. They call it conflict, but to you it feels like survival. Have you ever had your voice dismissed so easily, as if your truth was just an inconvenience? By mid-morning, Mrs. Simmons is back, a tray of sandwiches balanced carefully in her hands. She studies the evidence spread across your table and shakes her head. She's targeting everyone, not just you. You point to one notice. Mr. Peterson's rent jumping to $5,800. Another. Mrs. Daniels facing a sudden hike. Each paper is a strike meant to drive out the people who made Riverside what it is. She waits until people are weakest, close quote, you whisper, realizing the pattern. After Eleanor's death. After Thomas's divorce. After the Petersons' medical bills. Always when the cracks were wide enough to push through. Mrs. Simmons nods gravely. Predators don't attack the strong. They circle the wounded. Your chest tightens. You can almost hear Valerie's heels echoing through the halls, her voice dismissive, telling tenants they no longer belong. You clench your fists. Not yet, you tell yourself. Not while there's still time to fight. That evening, you return to your storage unit. Dust rises as you pull out the old cardboard box Eleanor left behind. Inside, among faded ledgers and neatly folded receipts, lies an envelope sealed in your grandmother's handwriting. For Miranda, when the time comes. Your throat tightens as you run a finger across the letters. You break the seal. A single note rests inside. Lawrence has everything you need. Trust him. Trust yourself. Lawrence Carver. The name tugs at memory. Your grandmother's personal attorney, the one she always insisted was the only lawyer she trusted. He retired, you thought. But maybe not completely. The next morning, you and Mrs. Simmons meet him in a wood-paneled office, sunlight cutting stripes across his desk. He studies the documents you've brought, adjusting wire rimmed glasses perched low on his nose. Then he lifts a deed, embossed with an official seal, and says words that knock the air from your lungs. Your grandmother left you trust 3 years ago. With that trust, you formed Stonebridge Holdings, which purchased Riverside Apartments. Legally, you've owned it all this time. Your breath catches. The signature on the papers is yours, hazy memory flooding back of Eleanor asking you to sign just in case. You had trusted her then without question. So all this time precisely, close quote, Carver interrupts, his voice steady. Your sister assumed control but never verified ownership after Eleanor passed. She's acted without legal standing. Shock mixes with fierce relief. For days, you thought Valerie had already won. Now you realize she built her empire on sand. Grandma Eleanor. Always 3 steps ahead. Always planning for the storm. Carver slides another envelope across the desk. Inside, Eleanor's elegant handwriting spells out, don't chase her approval. Build your own ground. A laugh escapes you, soft, disbelieving. All those years of being overlooked, of watching Valerie celebrated while you were dismissed. Eleanor had seen it all. And she had quietly placed her bet on you. But the thought barely settles before the weight of reality presses in. Valerie is not just a sister. She's a seasoned lawyer with influence, charm, and resources. She will not back down quietly. Have you ever realized the fight wasn't about proving yourself, but about protecting everything bigger than you? The following Sunday, your family gathers around the long dining table, crystal glasses sparkling under the chandelier. Valerie stands at the head, papers fanned out like weapons. She holds up an eviction notice for Mrs. Peterson, declaring she's 3 days late on rent. Your parents nod in approval. Normally, you would shrink into silence. But not this time. I've reviewed the records with my attorney, close quote, you say, your voice cutting through the chatter. The room stills. Valerie's smile falters. What attorney? Close quote, she sneers. The doorbell rings, perfect timing. And in walks Lawrence Carver, leather portfolio under his arm. Gasps ripple through the table. Your mother pales, your father stiffens. Valerie grips the table edge, trying to hold on to control. Carver places the deed on the polished surface. Stonebridge Holdings owns Riverside Apartments. Miss Wells here is its manager and rightful owner. Your sister has been acting without authority. The silence that follows is thick, suffocating. Cousins whisper. Aunts exchange startled looks. And for once, your father cannot meet your eyes. Valerie tries to argue, but her words crumble under the weight of evidence. The tide has shifted. You walk out of that room with something you've never had before. Undeniable proof. But as you leave, you catch Valerie's gaze. It's not defeat you see, it's calculation. You know she's already planning her counterattack. Because power rarely surrenders without resistance. Later that night, as you gather with tenants in the lobby, their faces light up with relief when you tell them. I've owned it for 3 years. I just didn't know. They laugh, they cry, they share food and stories. Mr. Garcia brings sangria, Mrs. Johnson a casserole. For a moment, hope flickers again in Riverside. But you can't shake the thought. Valerie will be back. And next time, she'll come with heavier weapons. So you prepare. You collect maintenance requests, unpaid invoices, statements from tenants. You photograph every leak and crack Valerie ignored. Slowly, you build a fortress of evidence, brick by brick. One evening, your parents arrive unannounced. Your mother's pearl earrings glint under the light as she surveys the stacks of papers on your table. You're tearing this family apart, close quote, she says, her voice sharp. Your father nods. Valerie has always protected us. Why fight her now? Close quote, you hold up a record showing $83,000 of maintenance funds diverted into Valerie's personal account. Their eyes slide away. Business is complicated, they mutter, and if you've followed the journey this far, a quiet tap on like or subscribe is more than enough to show you are standing here too, ready for the next twist in this drama story. 3 days of uneasy calm pass, and for a fleeting moment you think perhaps the storm has slowed. But the morning sun barely clears the rooftops before your phone vibrates with Carver's name flashing on the screen. His voice is clipped, tense, something you've never heard before. Valerie just filed an emergency motion, close quote, he says. She's challenging the LLC formation, claiming Eleanor was mentally compromised when she transferred ownership. Your coffee turns bitter on your tongue. Compromised. Your grandmother had been sharp until the very end, her mind clear even as her body weakened. You remember her handwriting, the way she recited property figures without hesitation. But Carver continues. If the judge entertains even temporary relief, you could lose control of everything while this drags through the courts. Your stomach lurches. This isn't just paperwork anymore. It's a battlefield. And Valerie is already waging her campaign in public. A newspaper headline lands on your doorstep. Family rift over historic Riverside Apartments. There's a photograph of Valerie with your parents at her side, expressions somber, eyes lowered in practiced sorrow. She's painted herself as the dutiful daughter protecting assets from your inexperience. The sting is sharp, but not unfamiliar. You've spent your whole life being cast in the shadow of her spotlight. Only this time, the stakes are higher than birthday dinners or Christmas gifts. This time, people's homes hang in the balance. That evening, your parents appear at your door again. Their voices carry the same mixture of disappointment and judgment you've known since childhood. This has gone far enough, close quote, your father insists. Valerie knows what she's doing, close quote, your mother adds. Just let her handle it. The weight of the words presses heavy on your chest, but you don't crumble. Not now. Not after everything you've uncovered. Did she tell you she diverted maintenance funds into her own accounts? Close quote, you ask quietly. Silence stretches between you, long and suffocating. Your mother looks away, your father shifts uncomfortably. Finally, they leave with promises to pray you come to your senses. The door closes behind them, and for the first time you realize their approval may never come. And strangely, the realization steadies you. Because this fight isn't about them anymore. It's about Mrs. Simmons, who's already been served legal threats for organizing tenants. It's about Mr. Peterson, whose rent increase notice sits crumpled in your file. It's about the countless voices who have knocked on your door, fearful of losing the only home they've ever known. That night, your living room transforms into a war room. Papers cover every surface. Carver sits across from you, methodically reviewing financial records, legal briefs, precedents. Tenants arrive one by one, carrying written statements about the promises Eleanor made, the repairs you personally handled, the neglect Valerie left behind. By midnight, exhaustion tracks at your eyes, but you keep going. Because you know Valerie is preparing too. And when morning comes, the courthouse will be your battlefield. The courtroom is packed. Every seat full, tenants, relatives, curious neighbors drawn by the drama. Mrs. Simmons sits beside you, her presence steady, her hand squeezing yours. Across the aisle, Valerie sits rigid in her charcoal suit, eyes sharp, posture unbending. Behind her, your parents' faces are masks of concern, their loyalty clear. When the judge enters, the air shifts. The bailiff calls the room to order, and the proceeding begins. Valerie's attorney rises first. His voice is practiced, confident, honed to full spaces like this. He speaks of Eleanor's age, of prescription medications, of supposed vulnerability. He paints you as opportunistic, inexperienced, incapable of managing complex properties. Your heart pounds, but you remember Eleanor's whisper. Patience outlasts power. Then Carver rises. His movements are deliberate, his voice steady. He doesn't argue. He doesn't raise his tone. He simply cues up a video. The screen flickers to life, and there she is, your grandmother, sitting in her living room 3 weeks before she passed. Her voice is clear, her gaze sharp. I, Eleanor Marie Wells, being of sound mind, transfer Riverside Apartments to Stonebridge Holdings under my granddaughter's management. This is my decision, made freely and with full awareness. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Even the judge leans forward slightly, watching Eleanor adjust her glasses, answering Carver's questions with precision and intent. Tears prick your eyes, but you hold them back. You need to be strong now because Eleanor is still standing beside you, even from beyond. Carver presents medical evaluations confirming her cognitive strength. He lays out financial records showing Valerie's diversions of maintenance funds. Then he introduces tenant statements collected by Mrs. Simmons. One by one, witnesses step forward, describing broken heaters, ignored repairs, unexplained fees. Under Mrs. Wells Harrison's management, close quote, Carver concludes, Riverside was not preserved. It was exploited. Eleanor knew who could be trusted with her legacy. That's why she chose Miranda. When it's your turn, the judge asks you directly, why do you believe you should maintain control of Riverside Apartments? Close quote, you swallow hard, then lift your gaze. I'm not here to punish anyone. I'm here to protect what my grandmother built. Riverside isn't just an asset. It's a home for families, for seniors, for people who have lived here their whole lives. I've managed it for years. I know which radiators knock in winter, which doors stick in the summer humidity. I know the people. And they know me. The words hang in the air, heavier than any document. For nearly an hour, Valerie's attorney cross-examines you, trying to expose gaps in your knowledge. But you've prepared. Every question has an answer. Every doubt, a record. Slowly, his confidence falters. Finally, the judge calls for closing arguments. Valerie's side insists she has the professional expertise, that her stewardship best serves the family's financial interest. Carver counters with Eleanor's explicit intent in the mountain of evidence. The silence that follows is deafening. The judge's gaze sweeps the courtroom, lingering briefly on Valerie, whose fingers tap against her leather portfolio, a nervous tick you remember from childhood. Then the decision comes, her voice firm, resolute. The court upholds the validity of Stonebridge Holdings and the transfer executed by Eleanor Wells. Ownership and management rights remain with Miranda Wells. Furthermore, a full accounting of all funds diverted under Valerie Wells Harrison's management is ordered. Any misappropriated sums must be repaid within 60 days. The gavel strikes. The sound reverberates through the room, through your chest, through every moment of doubt you've carried for years. Mrs. Simmons squeezes your hand, her eyes bright with tears. Around you, tenants exhale relief. Mr. Garcia claps your shoulder. Mrs. Peterson taps her cane against the floor in approval. And across the aisle, Valerie's mask cracks. Shoulders slumping, eyes narrowed, she looks not defeated but calculating. You know this isn't the end. She will not surrender easily. But as you step outside into the sunlight, the weight shifts. For the first time, you aren't just fighting to be seen. You are standing exactly where Eleanor prepared you to be. And though another battle may come, you know this. You're no longer alone. You carry a community with you. You carry her voice. You carry your own strength. The courthouse doors close behind you, and for the first time in weeks, you breathe without feeling the air catch in your lungs. The gavel's echo still lingers in your ears, a sound that carries both finality and warning. You won for now. But deep inside, you know Valerie is already plotting her next move. In the days that follow, relief sweeps through Riverside like a fresh wind. Tenants gather in the lobby with smiles, bringing casseroles, homemade wine, and warm embraces. You did it, close quote, Mrs. Johnson whispers, pressing your hands between hers. Mr. Peterson chuckles, shaking his head. I thought I'd be packing boxes. Turns out I was wrong, thank goodness. For a moment, you allow yourself to feel it, the weight lifting, the joy of standing not just for yourself but for all of them. But the joy is fragile, always shadowed by the memory of Valerie's expression as the judge's decision fell. Not broken. Not beaten. Just calculating. And sure enough, the storm returns. 3 mornings later, Carver calls with news that chills you. She's filed an appeal. Not against the ownership, that ruling is too airtight, but against your management capacity. She claims you lack the qualifications to oversee tenant welfare at scale. You pinned the bridge of your nose, exhaustion pressing down again. She'll drag this forever, won't she? Close quote, she'll try, close quote, Carver admits. But every desperate move weakens her standing. Still, you need to be ready. And ready you become. Your days full with spreadsheets, repair schedules, tenant meetings. You walk through the halls with a notebook, jotting down every leaky pipe, every cracked tile, every overdue maintenance request Valerie ignored. You photograph evidence, cataloguing years of neglect. Slowly, you transform her trail of mismanagement into your shield. One afternoon, Mrs. Simmons arrives with a manila folder. Inside are 15 signed tenant statements detailing ignored calls, sudden rent hikes, dismissive remarks. She targeted the vulnerable, close quote, Mrs. Simmons says, her voice steady. But now those voices are standing with you. Even as the evidence piles high, the emotional toll deepens. Your parents continue to stand beside Valerie, appearing in community gatherings with carefully rehearsed lines. She's done so much for us, close quote, they tell neighbors. We only want what's best for both our daughters. Their words sting not because you expect their support anymore, but because they still choose blindness over truth. One evening, as you pore over invoices at your desk, the doorbell rings. You open it to find your father standing in the hallway, hands in his pockets. His eyes flick toward the papers scattered across your table. Miranda, close quote, he says, voice heavy, this fight is tearing us apart. You wait, searching his face for a flicker of recognition, a hint that he sees you now. But it never comes. Instead, he sighs. Valerie says you're preparing to expose her. Think carefully. Once you cross this line, there's no going back. When the door closes behind him, your chest aches. For years you long for his approval, for his voice to carry pride when he spoke your name. But that night, you realize you may never hear it. And still, you press forward. Because some legacies are worth more than parental praise. The following week, Carver uncovers something crucial: bank records revealing $83,000 diverted from Riverside's maintenance funds into Valerie's personal accounts. This isn't just negligence, close quote, he says, tapping the paper. It's fraud. You stare at the numbers, anger sparking inside you. Fraud. The word feels sharp, dangerous. Valerie didn't just try to erase you, she exploited everyone, from elderly tenants to struggling families, to fuel her ambition. At the next hearing, Carver presents the findings. Murmurs ripple through the courtroom as documents reveal not only financial misconduct, but also the lavish purchases tied directly to those funds. Valerie's lawyer shifts uncomfortably. Even your parents' faces falter. The judge orders full repayment. Valerie's composure cracks, her jaw tightening, her hands trembling as she clutches her portfolio. For the first time, you see it. The cracks in her armor. But victory isn't about humiliating her, it's about rebuilding what she tried to destroy. Months pass. Slowly, Riverside changes. Broken pipes are replaced, peeling paint covered with warm tones, new windows installed to brighten the rooms. The community room is renovated, and you name it after Eleanor. The Eleanor Wells Community Room, where neighbors become family. On opening day, tenants fill the space with laughter, food, and flowers. Mr. Garcia brings his famous sangria. Mrs. Simmons arranges wildflowers and vases. Children race through the hallways, their voices echoing like music. As you unveil the plaque, your chest tightens with emotion. For years you thought you were invisible, overshadowed by Valerie's brilliance, dismissed by your parents. But here, surrounded by people who call Riverside home, you realize Eleanor was right. Connection builds a legacy. And this is yours now. Yet, even in triumph, shadows linger. You catch sight of Valerie one afternoon, standing across the street. Her designer clothes are gone, replaced with subdued colors. Her posture is less commanding, her eyes tired. For a moment, your gazes meet. Then she turns away, disappearing into the crowd. You wonder if she feels regret or only resentment. Perhaps both. But you know one truth. Her pursuit of power left her hollow, while your pursuit of connection built something lasting. A year passes. The waiting list for apartments grows long, families eager to join a community where fairness still matters. You introduce flexible payment plans for tenants in transition, ensuring no one is forced onto the streets. The Eleanor Wells Community Fund, run by Mrs. Simmons, helps 17 households secure stability in its first year alone. Sometimes, at night, you climb to the rooftop garden. From there, you watch the sun set over the city, its amber light washing the walls Eleanor once walked. You hear her voice in the breeze. Power without compassion is just control. And you smile, because you finally understand. The journey was never about proving yourself to your parents, or even defeating your sister. It was about honoring what Eleanor built: homes, not assets. Community, not control. Connection, not conquest. Standing on that rooftop, you realize the battle may not be completely over. Valerie could return with another scheme, another attempt to reclaim what slipped through her fingers. But if she does, you'll be ready. Not because of documents or court orders, but because of the people standing beside you. And that, more than anything, is unshakable. As the seasons turn, Riverside becomes more than just a building, it becomes living proof that compassion can triumph over ambition. You walk through its halls and see children laughing, neighbors sharing meals, and elderly tenants resting easy without fear of eviction. Every repaired wall, every glowing light, every shared smile whispers of resilience. And in those moments, you